In this video, I'll share the second major pitfall that I see parents fall into when navigating a tenuous relationship with their kids, okay? And this pitfall is what I call problem solving. Now, let's make a distinction right off the bat. It is very appropriate to solve problems with your kids when there is something significant at risk, right? You've developed yourself to be a problem solver as a parent if your kids are into their teenage years. So let's make a really important distinction between really needing to solve problems when there are actual problems that require your intervention as a parent, as an adult, and as a caregiver, versus problem solving as an ineffective way to connect with your kids. Okay, so let's set the scene. First of all, when your kids are sharing with you, maybe doesn't need to be said, but I'm going to say it anyway. When they share their life with you, it's vulnerable, right? Especially going into their teenage years, when they're sharing about their friends, about how they feel about their teachers, about their experience. Not only are they sharing about their external world, but they're always sharing about their internal world vis-a-vis their external world. So it's something to consider is that them sharing any aspect of their life with you is a risk, because that risk that they're taking is that they feel judged, or that you actually do judge their life, their decisions, their values, right? Those kinds of pieces. So every time that they share with you, consider it a really beautiful privilege, not that they are required to. Right? Another sub pitfall, I guess you could say, that I see parents fall into is they're not grateful for how their kids share their lives with them. And they think that they have to, or that they should, or that it's just kind of a given. And it's not. Because I've seen young people really sequester themselves from their parents and sequester their lives from their parents. And then their parents are like, wait, what happened? And then we start to look at the anatomy of what happened and solve it, and everything gets good again most of the time. But consider it every time that your child or your teenager or your young adult shares something with you about their inner world or about their external world, that it's really a privilege and an honor for you as a parent to be led into that. That will start to create a degree of humility for you that will actually create more influence for you as a parent. So consider it a delicate situation, when they're sharing, especially about their feelings, but even really if they're just sharing about their friends or an experience they had, it's telling you something about their world that will help you understand them, right? So that just sets the stage. When they give you information about themselves, you don't want to unintentionally weaponize that and feed it back to them with these ideas that aren't really in the context of what their life is like. Meaning that you attempt to solve a problem that they consider a problem, but that you do. Okay, this is like the old "take my advice, I'm not using it" adage that I see parents do sometimes, right? That parents aren't really living the way that they're expecting their kids to live, and they're like, "Well, do this." So this whole video is talking about how to not problem solve as a way to connect. Now, the main reason that parents are ineffective in communicating with their kids, in my opinion, is that they have not, I as a parent, I'm not a parent, but I as a caregiver in my role, if I put on a hat of being a parent, that I haven't successfully navigated the emotional discomfort that comes up for me when I attempt to connect with my child. And so the way that I try to connect with my child, and this happens a lot in masculine parents or dads historically, is that they do what they know how to do, which is solve problems. So they're like a repairman in their world, or they're a business person and all they do is solve problems all day. And they try to do that to connect with their kids, and their kids don't enjoy it because there's not really any connection there. They haven't agreed for you to be in the role of someone who solves their problems. Number one, because you don't see what you think is a problem is not a problem for them. And number two, you're so out of context generationally that you can't really understand what their world is really like. That's what I've heard a lot of kids say about their parents who fall into this pitfall of problem solving, right? So before you ever start offering solutions as a parent, here's what I recommend you do. These 5 things, okay? Check them out with your kid. Number one, see if they actually want to hear it and that there's an agreement for them to listen to the solutions that you are proposing, right? So they might say, you might do this, and you might say, I've seen parents do this, it's very cute. The parents will say, well, I know I don't want to rush into problem solving, but can I offer a couple solutions? And then their kids will do something like this. Sure. And the parents will be like, well, okay. And they won't read the room and they'll just launch into it. And then it's as if the kids' eyes circle back and start doing backflips in their eyes because they're rolling so hard. And I have to kind of intervene and be like, all right, time out. They're not listening to you. When they said sure, what they meant to say was, you're going to tell me anyway, or is this the fastest way through this conversation for me to say sure? And then I can just zone out and actually listen to what you have to say so that I can get to actually my phone and get to what's really important, which is either doing push-ups or seeing my friends or watching video games or getting on social media, right? So read the room, right? Do they actually want to hear your solutions? Is it sincere? I mean, I wouldn't even ever offer your solutions, number one, but I know that we got to find a middle ground here, all right? So that would be a number one advice. Never offer solutions. Just listen and try to understand as much as you can. I've seen actually kids, when parents get really humble and completely back off, kids start to want the input of their parents, or there's the possibility that they might want the input of their parents, right? All right, so that was number one. Make sure they actually want to hear your solutions. Okay, number two, your advice comes genuinely from a place of wanting to help, not from desperation. This goes back to navigating your own internal world, your own emotions, that you're not like feeling this frenetic need to give them a solution so they don't screw up their lives, right? That you come from a place of wanting to support, relaxed, open. It's informed by your understanding of their life. You're actually really curious. You care. I mean, care is never, I don't think, ever really a question, but does your care come across as frenetic anxiety and desperation? Or does it come from a place of like really wanting to offer something that they could take it or leave it? All right. So that's number two. Number three, if you're offering the advice, that doesn't come with the agreement, the contract that they have to accept and follow your advice. Meaning you are just offering something. They could sweep it off your hand. They could grab it and crush it. They could look at it and not take it. They could judge you for offering it. They could do lots of things with the thing that you are offering, the solution or the advice that you're offering. And you practice being unattached to whether they follow it, listen to it, or whatever, right? The more that you can be unattached to your offering, to your proposal, the greater chance that it has of being accepted. Yeah? Okay. And we got one more. Your solutions, this is the most important one, that your solutions to their problems, which they may not even be problems, they're situations, whatever they are, your solutions, your advice, your proposals, your ideas are not a way of avoiding your unconscious emotional discomfort. You might be really anxious, you might be really sad, you might be devastated, you might be just freaked out because their world is kind of falling apart and they're failing out of school and they've got terrible friends and there's a whole host of things going on. Tuck your desperation, your anxiety aside. Better yet, navigate it so that you're feeling wholehearted and good and centered inside of yourself, or at least you're practicing that, and then offer things on the plate of being prepared to have it acquire dust, right? Or thrown in the garbage. It's fine. This is the way that kind of problem solving can be a way of connecting, right? You're offering something. It's from your heart. It's from your care. You're not attached. It's not controlling. It doesn't come with conditions, right? Okay, so those are those few things of exceptions of why I think you can probably offer solutions, right? I'm going to talk more about what to actually do here in a few minutes, or some ideas of what you can do. Let's talk about how you do this. When you're starting these conversations about their issues or their problems, I don't even like to call them problems. They're situations that they're navigating. Lead with humility. Let yourself be informed with curiosity. Here's the third piece. Have faith in them and their resilience, right? This is one way that I approach talking to young people who are really struggling. One of the things I'll often say is, God, I'm actually just curious how you're going to navigate this, And not like in a judgy way, like that it comes from a place of, I know that they can do this, that they'll find their way through this. And that the way that they've got themselves into this situation, whatever it is, whether it's a relationship, whether it's getting behind in school, that somehow is a part of their journey that informs how they're going to grow and become a successful person in the future, right? So be as humble as you can. Be as curious as you can so you can really understand their world such that your ideas about their world are informed about who they actually are, what they believe in, what their interests are, what their values are, things like that, right? And then finally, have faith in them and their resilience and speak from a place of that. And then be transparent. If you don't know, just say you don't know. God, how great is that? You don't know and you don't have to know, right? I mean, one of the things that I do often whenever I put on my advice giving hat, which I do sometimes, but I always try to practice not giving the advice that I'm not using. Any advice that I give, I check out with myself to make sure I'm actually applying it in my life or have applied it and it's now just integrated in myself, right? As a rule. You could do that too if you wanted. Is the fourth piece. So humility, curiosity, having faith in them and their resilience, and then being transparent. It's so amazing when parents can lower their guard, not be defensive, not be in touch with their own insecurities, and be transparent. You might say to yourself, I don't really understand your generation. We didn't have social media when I was a kid, right? I didn't have the internet when I was in college. So like the whole world of internet I've had to learn. So having social media is like a new thing to probably you and definitely was to me a few years ago when it started getting, big. And I'm still like a neophyte in a lot of like social media realms, right? So you could just say like, I don't know how you people, how you all communicate with yourselves and how it all works. But here's my 2 cents if you want it, right? I mean, again, like putting it on that platter where they can be like, you're like, hey, I'm just going to leave it here. You can enjoy this or not. I'm just going to walk away. It's up to you. They might throw it away 80% of the time, but 20% of the time, oh my gosh, that's juicy because you have just done one of the most important things in the role of a parent and a child, which is have influence on your kids, which is, my gosh, what a gem to have. That's really what you want. Okay, so here's some ideas about what you can say to your kids as you're navigating this. I just said one of these. I don't know anything about your friend group, how it works, but when I'm in this situation in my life, I'm 46, I'm an adult now. I do this a lot when I'm talking to young people, and it really works. I don't know anything about how your friend groups work. Here's my 46-year-old cringy way of saying this that might be helpful to you or might not, and then I'll share what I would say, right? And again, totally unattached to whether they do it or not, right? Because their life is their responsibility ultimately, yeah? You as a parent, secondly, might just reflect what you see in a very warm, non-judgmental way. You're not going to reflect like, well, I see that your friends are pretty dramatic and, you are too, actually. Right? Reflect what you see in terms of their struggle in the light of them being great, wonderful people. Yeah. So, well, sweetie, what I see is that you're really conflicted about what to do with these friends. And on the one hand, you really love being connected to them. And on the other, you can I think it seems like you're starting to see that there are some real downsides to being connected to these people. What do you think you're going to do? And she might say, I don't know. That's why I don't know. What do you expect of me? I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm never going to figure it out. Oh God. Okay. Well, I don't agree with you. I think you are actually going to figure it out, but I hear what you're saying. Right? And let them disagree with you too. Let them push back a bit. Let them win, in these arguments. They're not arguments. Let them win in their discussions. Let them be right, The great Gandhi, he radically changed history and the world itself by not being right about things, right? By letting the British, I'm not an expert in history. I've seen some Gandhi movies and I read some books, right? But the nature of his movement was just absorbing violence, He would just let himself and his people get beat by the British government at that time, and they won because the British got tired of it. I mean, what an amazing philosophy. So I'm not saying you're letting yourself get beat by your kids, obviously, but letting them win, letting them think they're right all the time. I mean, there is an art to this that I think that's an element of, okay? All right, so here's another thing that you could say. The first thing was, I don't know about, it was the humility approach. I don't know how this works, but when I'm in this situation, this is what I do. Owning that you're, kind of disconnected in a way generationally. Number 2, you can reflect what they see and let them disagree. Number 3, ask them how they're going to navigate it, right? Or just say something that I'll say is, well, I don't know how you're going to navigate this, but I trust you're just going to find a way. Like, I know you, and I know that you will just find a way through this, right? And that conveys a level of confidence that you have in them. They may not have for themselves, right? All right, so another piece is just reflecting that it sounds stressful, that it sounds hard, and just reflecting how you see them doing. Again, when people share, generally, they're not looking for solutions most of the time. And people don't even know, but most of the time when people share, in my experience, they just want to be understood. They just want to be gotten. They want to be seen. And they often don't even know that they want that. And that's adults. So why would young people or young adults or teenagers know that they want to be understood or seen? They might, but I can almost guarantee you that that's what everybody in this world ultimately wants in a connection, is to be understood and seen, because that's one of the foundational principles of connection, right? So the last piece is a reiteration of the other one. I mean, one thing that I'll say often when I'm working with young people, even in the midst of their struggle, you're amazing. I've seen so many ways that you are just a remarkable person. You're resourceful, and be specific about what you see, right? Instead of just the catch-all of you're amazing. You're resourceful. You've got grit when you want it. Even though they might give up on a lot of things, you can recognize some things when they've had grit before or had resilience before. You really care about things that you care about. I mean, you don't care about at all things that you don't care about, which is, kind of an issue in how you got into this. I might not say that, but I might think that. But when you really care about something, God, you can make it work. And I know you're going to find a way through this. I don't know how, and I'm here to support you in certain ways. I mean, ultimately, this is your responsibility, but I'm really happy to help you in the ways that I can. And you're just going to find a way through this. And I might even just walk away, figuratively speaking, or literally, right, in those moments. Okay, so let's summarize. Why is problem solving a pitfall for parents sometimes? Because they attempt to connect through offering solutions. It's not that helpful. Connection is connection. That's distinct from problem solving, right? There are a few things that you can do if you actually want to offer solutions, see if they actually want to hear it. The advice comes from a place of wanting to help, not from desperation, meaning you're good inside of yourself. You as a parent are actually attached to their experience. You're tuned to their experience, and you're not attached to them taking your advice. And then finally, and most importantly, you are not offering solutions based on a way of connecting because you're emotionally uncomfortable. All right. Leave a comment below. Give a thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. It's really helpful. And leave some comments if you like. All my best to you.